and welcome to Ready to Heal. This is a show about alternative healing, all the modalities you may have heard of or you may never have heard of. And I am your host today, Betsy Sawyer Galen. My guest is Linda Hendrick.
Hi.
She was also my first guest on the show a way back. So today we're going to talk about the things that she does, which are massage and Reiki. Mm-hmm. So, Linda.
Yes, Betsy.
I would like to ask you, how did you get started? How did you find yourself doing these types of healing?
Okay, so this may take the whole period. No, I'm only kidding. I've been always on a spiritual quest probably my entire adult life, always looking for something that just resonated with me. And I would go to all different meditation groups and gurus and all sorts of things. Nothing ever quite resonated for me. And so eventually I was taking this meditation class in Chappaqua, actually, and the teacher was a Reiki master. And so they were talking about it in class, and I had never heard of Reiki, had no idea what it was. In fact, this was in 1989, so I mean, it was just not that well known at the time.
Yeah.
But it sounded very interesting to me, so I decided to pursue it. My teacher was teaching a class on Labor Day weekend that year, and I decided to do it. Because it turned out that because he had scheduled the class for Labor Day weekend, I was the only one signed up for it. And he called me and told me, and he said, I'll be happy to do it at another date, but you should know ahead of time that you are the only person who is signed up for this, and, just let me know if you're interested. So I hung up the phone, and I was terrified because I didn't know what to expect. And I'm like, well, should I do this? I don't know. I mean, I have no idea. There's this man that I hardly know, and he's going to teach me this, and I have no idea whether you keep your clothes on. I mean, I just had no idea. But I just went inside and asked, should I do this? And I got a resounding yes that I should do this. So I did it, and it was the most remarkable experience of my life. It changed my life completely. Because I started doing Reiki immediately, because you can once you learn the first degree, and it's three levels of Reiki. But once you learn it, you can do it. I mean, and you can do it immediately, and you can do it on yourself, which was another reason I was so excited to do it.
And does that really work?
Oh, baby, does it ever?
So now tell me, what happens when you have Reiki? Like, what are the things that people can expect, or for what type of problems would a person think they need Reiki for?
Well, Reiki actually addresses any number of issues, because it works on every level. It works on the physical, it works on the emotional, it works on the intellectual level, it works on the spiritual level. So if you're having issues in any of those areas, it can be extremely helpful. Obviously, the most apparent situation is when you have a physical issue and we work on you, and either if you're in pain or you have some kind of a problem and it gets better or goes away, you have concrete evidence that it worked.
Right.
The other stuff is a little more, not sure, but I feel more relaxed. And that's certainly one of the benefits of Reiki, is if you are stressed, if you are tense, if you are going through an emotional upheaval of some kind, it really is wonderful for that. But so it works on every level of the body, and the body has an intelligence of its own and knows what to take from the Reiki. I mean, as a provider, as a practitioner, what I'm doing is I'm putting my hands on someone.
Are you actually putting your hands on them, or are you putting your hands close to them?
It depends. I actually prefer to put my hands directly on the person that's receiving the Reiki. It just feels good. Mm-hmm. There's something really reassuring about having somebody's hands on you, especially
Right.
when your hands get so hot, which they do.
Yeah.
That's part of Reiki is hot hands.
And it's an energy transfer, too.
Absolutely.
It's an energy transfer that comes through your fingers.
Right, but you don't necessarily have to place your hands on someone. I mean, I work, a lot of times I'll work out, in the field, in the energy field, and the energy tells me where to put my hands. And when you learn the second degree of Reiki, you learn to do what we call absentia healing, which means you're sending energy over time and space. So I can be working on somebody who's halfway around the world. So obviously I'm not touching them.
Right. Right.
But it's very
so how is
powerful.
So can you explain how that works?
No. No, I'm kidding. It's what it is.
Some of these things are very difficult to explain now because you can see that they work, but actually knowing the exact mechanisms is difficult.
Right. I can describe how it works, which is in the second degree, we learn symbols, and each symbol has a function, and there is a specific symbol for absentia healing. So what I would do is, and preferably the thing to do is to have the person that you're working on know that you set up an appointment. It's not always done this way. Sometimes I will just, if I know somebody's having surgery, I will just sit down and I will do an absentia session just because I know it'll help the surgery go better. But so we set up an appointment, and then I sit down in a quiet place just so I can focus, and then I will envision the person in between my hands, and then I will bring in the energies and use the absentia symbol, and then I will...
What's the absentia symbol?
I can't tell you.
It's
a
top
secret. Yes, it's top
Is that
secret.
right?
Yes, no, I can't. I really can't. I'm sorry. You have to be.
Okay,
yeah.
Linda.
Sorry. I mean, it's out there,
right.
but
Okay.
Yeah.
Got it.
Yeah. We're not the Masons or anything. It's not like that. No secret handshakes or anything. And then what you do is you work on the person. You envision them, and then you work on them. And usually what I'll do is I'll work on the head and the neck, and then the abdomen, and then the lower body. And sometimes I'll just work on the whole body and just keep it running. And it runs for about 15 or 20 minutes, and then we're done. But can be very powerful.
And so now how does this, you also do massage.
Yes.
And we were talking about this earlier, how sometimes people can get a prescription for massage from their doctor,
right?
Get their insurance to pay for that easier than they can get Reiki. Every day, I think
absolutely.
Every day, I think it changes some, and so some people can,
right.
They have a progressive physician and all of that. But in any case, you were telling me that you do massage also.
Oh yeah.
And so, tell me a little bit about that. And do you incorporate the Reiki in that, or how does that work?
Well. Actually, let me just go back. When I learned massage because of Reiki, I had started studying Reiki in 1989. I was, at the time, a casting director in advertising. And at a certain point in the early 90s, I had decided that I wanted to change careers because the business had changed and I wasn't happy. And I was looking for something else to do, another career. I wanted something completely different. And I decided I wanted to do something where I could use the Reiki. And when I thought about doing several things, but massage just leaped out at me because they're very connected. I mean, and it would give me license to put my hands on people, which is not the case with Reiki. There is no licensing board. There is no certification other than what you get from a Reiki master, which has nothing to do with laws.
Yeah.
So that was what I did. That was what helped me make my decision to go into massage, was that I would then be able to bring Reiki into the mainstream, use it in concert with my Reiki, and do Reiki and massage at the same time, and do combined sessions. But I frequently, I mean, when I have my hands on somebody, now, we're talking about something that I've been doing for a long time. I actually can't help it. The Reiki comes through whether I call on it or not at this point.
And now how can you tell?
My hands get very hot.
Oh.
My hands just get so hot that it's unmistakable.
And so that is one of the features of,
Oh,
of
yeah.
Reiki,
Yeah.
of Reiki energy.
Yeah, hot hands. I mean, everybody who learns Reiki, that's part of it. Their hands get very hot.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's what I heard. So now you were saying that you can do Reiki on yourself.
Yes.
How do you do Reiki on yourself?
The same way you would do it on someone else, except you just put your hands on yourself. And there's, you bring it in, because you always have to bring in, you have to request the energy to come in.
Tell me a little bit about like the origin of Reiki.
Oh, Reiki, the actual origins are unknown. It supposedly was done by the Buddhist monks in Tibet in the ancient days. And they did it for just for spiritual reasons. The practice was lost over time. And then in the early part of the 20th century, this gentleman, Dr. Yu Sui, was on a spiritual quest, and he had done all sorts he studied all sorts of healing methods. He went on he went to the top of Mount Kurama in Japan and went on a 21-day meditation and fast. And at the end of the 21 days, the Reiki, the symbols and the whole practice were channeled to him. And when he came down from the mountain, he had this information, this knowledge, and this ability. And he started practicing it almost immediately. And there was a very bad earthquake in Tokyo in the 1920s, and I think 1921, and he started treating victims of the earthquake, and his fame started growing because he was helping so many people, and it was something that was completely unique. I mean, here he was putting his hands on people and helping them and healing them. So he started getting a lot of people coming to see him, and he started opening up clinics all over the city, and then initiating people so that they could then do Reiki on others, and that's how it all began.
Ah.
Yeah.
So that's interesting. That's interesting. Yes. And now, at this point, you are teaching classes also, right? You teach people Reiki.
I do, yes.
So tell me a little bit about that. Like, how does a person learn how to do Reiki?
Well, they have to learn it through a Reiki master. There are no schools for it, and it's the way I teach it, and there are different.
And let me ask you another question too.
Sure.
When you're doing Reiki, like, how long is a session? Is it
usually about an hour? Yeah, I would say approximately an hour. Yeah, and a session. I use all the different chakras. You know what chakras are, right?
Why don't you? Yeah.
Okay. There are 7 major chakras, which are. They're actually chakra is the Sanskrit word for energy. So, or energy centers. So, and there are 7 major energy centers in the body. From head to toe. It's actually from toe to head. Actually, it starts at the first chakra is the base of the spine. The second one is just below the navel. The third one is at the solar plexus. The fourth one is the heart. Fifth one is the throat. The sixth one is what we call the third eye. And the 7th one is the crown, which is at the top of the head. I think that's so strange that there aren't any points
there are.
in the lower there limbs. Are tons there are hundreds
but
of points.
There aren't the major points.
Right, exactly. Yeah. Exactly. But there's back of the neck, the hands, the feet, they're everywhere. Yeah. So, but those are the major ones, and those are the ones that we use pretty regularly. Yeah. Where were we?
we were kind of bouncing around because I just thought of that question. And before we talk about learning how, I wanted people to really understand like what it is like to get a Reiki session, and I also wanted to talk about like what do you find the people who come to you for Reiki? What are they coming for?
It really varies wildly. I mean, I have some people who come to me because they have low energy or they're very stressed, having trouble sleeping. I've had quite a few people who I've worked on who are cancer patients. I've had people who had there are so many treatment people.
And do people come because they don't know where else to go at that?
Frequently,
Yeah.
we're the last.
The last stop.
I've done everything. You're my last
And
hope.
You've got to try, right? You
Exactly.
Got to try something.
Exactly.
Yeah, which makes total sense.
It does. It does. I sometimes wish that they could come to me sooner rather than later. It would be
Right.
easier.
And have you had any cases where people just like made a miraculous recovery?
Sure, absolutely. My husband, for one.
Oh, so tell me about that.
Yes, he had polyps in his sinuses, and they were going to do surgery on him. And I started doing Reiki on him, and I was doing it pretty regularly. And that's also the thing is if you have something specific and serious, you probably have to do a whole series of sessions.
And now, do you do the whole body when you have a specific?
It depends. With my husband, no, because he's probably the most impatient person on the face of the earth. He would not lie there for an hour. There is no way. So I would just work specifically on his sinuses and his head. But after about 3 or 4 months, he went back to his ENT and they took another X-ray or MRI or whatever they took, and the polyps had disappeared.
Wow.
Yeah. And he
Wow.
said, yeah, I know.
That's
I was
awesome.
pretty excited about that myself. And he said, and then he asked the doctor if that was something that could happen normally, that they would just spontaneously disappear. The doctor said absolutely not. And
Right.
then he sheepishly told the doctor about me and what I had been doing, and he said, tell her to keep up the good work. So,
that's great.
yeah, that was pretty cool. That was
That's
excellent.
great.
Yes. I also have had a relative of mine was being treated for cancer of the salivary glands, and she was in so much pain. It was really sad. They treat that with radiation, and because of that, people who are being treated with that they develop like canker sores in their throat, and it's very hard for them to swallow anything. So eating anything, drinking is incredibly painful. And she had called me and said, help, I don't know what to do. And I said, okay, you know what, we'll set up a session, because she lived down in New Jersey at the time. And I said, we'll set up a session, I will do absentia on you, I'll do Reiki on you, and we'll see what happens. Because we don't know. I mean, it's kind of, you never really know what the outcome is going to be. You just,
Right.
there are no guarantees. And there's no guarantees with anything. But anyway,
Right.
I started working on her. One night, I worked on her one night, and she called me the next day and said, what did you do? And I said, I did Reiki. Why? And she said, because I have no more pain. And I was like, really?
Wow.
And she said, really? And I did it a couple of more times, and for the rest of her treatment, she had no more pain. So I was ecstatic, of course. I mean, this was just fabulous. I just was,
Wow.
thrilled. I was thrilled.
That's awesome.
Yeah, it is
So let
awesome.
me ask you a question now. You learn how to do it, and then how do you transition into like actually having the confidence to do it? Because there are lots of things that we learn, and then we just kind of put them away or whatever. And how did that transition go? Now I know you also got the massage, so that was they just kind of led into each other.
Yeah, it's a really nice combination. I mean, it really works well together. But the fact of the matter is, I had been doing Reiki before I was doing massage, and the way you gain confidence is by experience. I mean, the more you do it, the more confident you get, because you see the results, and you can absolutely, you're going to see the results. I mean, there is no question about it. You learn it, you're going to do it, you're going to see you're going to see the results. So I started doing, when I learned it, I started doing it on myself, of course, because it's also recommended that when you learn Reiki, you do it on yourself every night for like 3 weeks. So, and keep a diary to and because the way
that kind of strengthens your skills, and it also strengthens
the more you do it, the better you get
doing
at
it. Yeah,
it's like anything else. Practice, practice.
Right.
But I had a few experiences that were pretty extraordinary, and I through that I realized this stuff really works, and I can't keep it to myself. I have to let it out there. I have to help people.
No, that's great.
Yeah.
What happened while you were practicing for yourself?
Well, one of the things that happened was a couple of days after I was attuned, I was working in the garage, and I stood up, and the garage door had kind of sunk down, and I
hate that.
I just creamed myself at the top of with the garage door, and I just automatically put my hands on my head. I don't even know why, but I just did it, and the pain went away like that, and I was like, whoa, there's something. Whoa, what is this? How did that happen? So it was really quite extraordinary. And then I was doing it on anybody, who would let me, basically, because I was really anxious to try to learn it and do more of it. And it just, I did it. We had a cat who was having cancer, and she used to come up and jump on the bed every night so that I could give her Reiki. And it was just, I know, and she was not that kind of a cat. She used to like shy away from me, but I did it one time, and then every night after that she would come up and I would put my hands on her for about 10 minutes, and it was so sweet.
Yeah, and that's so validating too.
I know. Because that was not her thing. She barely tolerated me, so I was very surprised that she would let me do that.
You had a way to her heart.
I know. So, I mean, those kind of experiences just show you that it is valid, it does work, there's something there. And most of the people I know who go to study Reiki do it because they want to help people, and they want to make a difference in people's lives. And so when you see that you have this in your hand, you have this power in your hands, it's very exciting, it's very empowering, and you want to share it, you want to put it out there. So you start telling people. And it's not the kind of thing that's, you don't, oh, please come. No, it's not that. Yeah, that's part of the thing with Reiki is people must ask you for Reiki. You cannot just go, let me do this to you. Let me work on it. No,
right. Well, that would be a little frightening for people.
It would be, absolutely.
Like they don't know what you're doing. I wanted to ask you, too, there's something called healing touch.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Is that Reiki?
No, but it's, from what I understand, I've never experienced it, but I know people who do it, that it developed out of Reiki. It's people who did Reiki came up with healing touch. So, and also therapeutic touch is another one of those things. And there's a lot of similarities. There is no attunement, which is part of Reiki. But I know that a lot of people do it. A lot of nurses do it. But, of course, a lot of nurses do Reiki also. It's, oh, yeah.
That's good to know. And do they do it officially, or do they do it unofficially?
No, they do it unofficially. Although, as I was telling you earlier, there are, for instance, White Plains Hospital has a program where they have volunteers who do healing touch on patients. So, and somebody that I've recently taught Reiki is one of those people. She's a volunteer, and she does healing touch, and she also now incorporates the Reiki into her treatment of patients.
That's awesome.
So it is awesome. It's great. I love hearing that.
Wow, that's great.
Yeah.
So now, how does a person get a session with you? Just give me a basic range of what it would cost. Does it include massage? It can. We were talking about how insurance a lot of times will cover massage, not as often Reiki, but if you get a massage that has Reiki, then you're kind of
exactly
getting everything there.
Yeah, exactly.
But how does a person?
They would call me.
Call me. Okay, that sounds fair enough. Yeah. And how long is the session?
Usually around an hour. The first one is a little longer because we have to kind of talk about it and find out what's going on, you know, why you're there and that kind of stuff. But it's, I would say an hour and 15 minutes is the
And what
length
does a
of the
person
session.
pay, general, just a range of what
Well,
somebody?
I charge $80 for an hour, or however long. If it goes over, it's still 80. But that's my fee.
Oh.
Yeah.
And we were talking before a little bit, I just wanted to go back to that.
Sure.
That you teach classes.
Yes.
So
yes.
tell me about how a person would go about.
Again, call me. I don't have, I mean, I don't have specific classes set up. Some classes are scheduled by other people, you know, and you know ahead of time. The way I work generally is if I have a couple of people who start asking me about teaching, then I realize that it's time to teach a class, and I'll set something up. I'll work out the date based on everybody's schedule who wants to take the class.
And what is it? It's usually a weekend, right?
I try to do it on a weekend because most people are available on the weekends, although the last class I taught was during the week because one of the people who was taking the class works on the weekends. So I wanted to accommodate her. I knew she really wanted to study Reiki, so
And so how long is the class?
Okay, the first degree, which is the first level, is a full day. We go from about, I would say, 10 to 5, and there's an hour or so break for lunch. So there's that. Then, and the cost is $125. Second level is a little longer of a day because the first class, I do most of the work. The second class, the students are doing most of the work because it's experiential and it's learning. You're learning the symbols, you're learning how to use the symbols. So when I teach second level, it's usually an evening and a day. The evening is an introduction, and also I show you the symbols that you're going to learn. And we do a meditation and an attunement. And then usually the next day, or it doesn't necessarily have to be the next day, but it usually is a full day. And you learn to use the different symbols. That
sounds great.
Yeah.
Thank you again, Linda Hendrick, for being my guest.
You're welcome.
This is Betsy Sawyer Galen. We'll see you next time on Ready to Heal.